All right, everybody, notes away. It's time for a pop quiz. Ha, you didn't think we did that in this kind of school, did you? Well, think again. So what I've done for you here is I've created a string of deaths. I've played a bunch of ranked matches, and these are just the times where I get splatted and I have to return into play. And at a certain point in the video, it's going to pause, and then you're going to decide where or if you would have super jumped to get back into play from there. After you've had a little bit of time to think about it for yourself and you've made your decision, I'm not going to give you too long because remember, this is the decision that you've got to make pretty quickly. I'm going to then pause the video and go back and explain why that was the decision that I made and whether I thought that that was the correct decision based on what happened afterward. So let's get started with the first one. All right. So here's your chance. Do you think I should jump? Where do I jump to? I end up deciding not to jump here. So let's talk about why. One big thing that concerned me about this is the fact that there's all of this green ink right here, and the fact that my team isn't trying to clean this up. They're not trying to paint this. If they were painting this and they weren't contested for painting it, then I would know, okay, they can see that there's nobody anywhere in this area that's going to attack them for this, and they're going to feel confident that they can just get control of this. But they clearly don't, and in fact, there is someone who ends up going to engage one of them in the meantime. I'm worried that if I jump in, maybe this player will get sucked into this engagement and someone will come from the front. These players are both looking in this direction, so clearly they're worried about that. They might not be looking at what's coming at me. There are a lot of variables here, and this fight right here in particular is just kind of a 1v1. And if I jump to this player, I am completely counting on them being able to beat the other player for me to be safe, which it's a coin flip. I have no way of knowing how well that's going to go. So I end up not jumping and just swimming back in. They do end up getting that splat, and my teammate does actually end up jumping into the other player. So it's possible that maybe there was an opportunity there to get a little bit more out of it and be up there with my teammates, but it wasn't quite something that I trusted just yet. All right, here's the next one. So there's the situation. What do you think? Here, we definitely do jump. Now, the absolute worst case scenario happens, and as we're jumping, two of them get splatted, but because I chose to jump where I chose to jump to the far corner in here, I'm underneath a ledge, and there aren't that many angles that the enemy team can take to actually see me. There is a player up here, and that's the biggest concern right now, but someone from up here would have to have pretty long range to be able to get me. I do still have some orange ink behind me that I'm going to be able to use to escape here. And so even though the absolute worst does happen here, because I had so many teammates around and they had already painted up so much, I'm able to just scramble away and get out safely. Note that I throw a bomb there so that if someone drops to try and chase me, they land on the bomb, and so they can't. So my entire team ends up going down, but that jump was still safe. Next one. Jump the gun there. All right, so here's the information you have to work with. Do you jump to this? We actually do jump to this. This is one that I thought might catch some people off, because if you look at this freeze frame here, there is an awful lot of green ink right here. And so it might not seem like this is safe to be in, but here's a couple of other things to think about. First of all, this player is a Hydra. So they have a range about out to here, and they're probably just getting charged right now. So even though all of this is painted up, it would be a pretty foolish decision on the attacking team to try and push into that right now with a Hydra looking directly at them. We've also got a couple of teammates here, and they're both clearly, looking out into mid. So if I were to jump in, I would have at least 2 people probably shooting from different directions at anybody who could try and approach that position that I'm jumping to. So I felt pretty confident here that since my teammates were looking in that direction and they had the range and the manpower to splat anybody who's coming from here, that I'm probably pretty safe doing this. Another thing that I'm checking is to make sure that there's no flank here. If, for example, the Hydra were getting flanked from this direction, then I'm probably not going to jump, because by the time I get there, they've probably taken the Hydra out and they're now looking at me. But knowing that there's still a bunch of orange paint there and it's not the easiest thing for someone to have snuck down and gotten through here, I feel pretty safe doing this. And I end up landing with no problems at all. Note that the Hydra is in fact spraying over mid here, making it completely safe for me to land, and they in fact get someone who tries to push through mid. Alright. How about this situation here? So I was a little bit sneaky there, because I paused it right before this player goes down. But before that even happens, we should probably anticipate that it's about to happen for a couple of reasons. First of all, they're facing this direction. They're facing this player, so these two are clearly, engaged in some kind of fight right now. And this is the Rainmaker carrier, so they do have the range to hit this. And this player isn't actually painting up anything in front of them right now. Normally, if you're expecting that this player is going to be able to fight this player, there's going to be some paint going down, because from the shots that they're firing, it's going to paint along the way. And that's not happening right now. So this seems to be a Hydra without charge, without that much ink to stand on, that's fighting against the Rainmaker that definitely is in range to hit them. This player is probably off limits for a jump, even if they survive long enough for me to. And then this jump would just be too dangerous. We don't know the positions of 2 of the enemy players, so this player and this player are somewhere out on the map right now. There are a couple of beacons, so someone could arrive here very quickly. So definitely too dangerous to attempt jumping to them, and this player does end up going down, so even before they do, our plan is just, let's swim out there. Alright, next one. Here we decide not to jump. Now, all 3 of our teammates end up being safe, but the big thing is, they're all just right here on plat. They're not that far away from me. So I can just swim out to them without losing that much time. And the danger of jumping, for example, would be that maybe this splatter shot gets special and has a Trizuka that they shoot up over the top. And they see my jump, and so I do have stealth jump, so maybe they wouldn't have seen it, but maybe they start pushing up from here, and they see this jump when they get around the corner. Rather than taking the risk for saving not very much time at all of having to land on that exact spot without being able to react, I'd rather just swim in, collect some information while I get there, maybe paint a little bit on the way, and be able to get there in almost the same amount of time. So if you're super close to base, no real reason to super jump, it's probably just an unnecessary risk. All right. Now here's this situation. Do we jump? Yes, we do, and it ends up being a safe one, specifically because of who we jumped to. So, in this situation, notice that I was pushing further forward, and I got splatted there. So the team has been stopped recently from pushing any further here, and they're backing up. So there's a lot of firepower that's centered around this area, and so there are going to be a lot of people who are going to be looking at these 2 players. And I'm not quite as confident going to them. Now, what I am more confident about is that there is a player right here that my teammate, the Splattershot, has just taken out. We saw that, I believe, on the freeze frame. Yes, there it is. So, since there's been a player removed from this area and there's no other paint in this direction, there's no sign that anybody's coming to try and trade them back to help them, I know that it's very, very likely that this whole area is clear. Because if a fight breaks out, that's when you're really going to see the enemy team show themselves. As soon as this player goes down, it would be advantageous if there were someone who was still around to try and go after my teammate and trade them back. But since that's clearly not happening, and since, you know, they're kind of tucked away in the corner of the map here while most other people are looking in this direction, it's probably safe to land right there, and that's what we end up doing. Notice that this player does end up getting taken out ultimately, and so if I had jumped to them, I would go down, but the choice that I make here is a lot safer. I'd also like to point out that because I get into this position safely, I am able to actually be there in time to help these players in this fight. If I hadn't jumped, then I would have been swimming back into mid still, and when this fight comes in, it's more of a 2v2. But now, since I'm here, it's a 3v2, and we do end up being able to close in and win this and grab the Rainmaker and go. All right, here's the next one. So, do we think we jump into this? Yes, we do. And we end up getting value for it, which is awesome. One of the main things that I was looking for here is for a teammate to be behind cover, because we were all up in this area right here, and this is definitely not safe. Enemy players are all respawned, so somebody is definitely looking in this direction, especially since the Rainmaker was just put up on the platform here. So when I saw this player drop back, I was like, okay, yeah, that's definitely safe. This is underneath Hut here, the canopy area on Hagglefish. So this is that transparent roof on the map that you can stand underneath. There's only one window down into that, which is right here, that they have, because this right here is a solid wall. And the Rainmaker is in the way of that. So it's very unlikely that someone has... The only way that they could really get around at this player is from the side, which means they would have had to drop here, come all the way back around, instead of, you know, just like collecting the Rainmaker or popping it or something. So this player is definitely going to be safe in this position. These two players I would definitely not jump into. They are being contested directly by this player. The one who dropped back, definitely going to be safe. And we do get in there, and we're actually able to protect one of our teammates from this hammer that's chasing them. All right, what do we think? So here we end up not jumping. And we've talked about the reason why a little bit before as well. Everybody is pretty close here. This player, you know, is maybe a little bit further up, but one of the things that we're worried about here is what's going on the right-hand side of the map. There's a bunch of green ink right here, and notice also that my teammate has turned to look at it. So there's clearly something over here that has caught their attention if they're not looking at the Rainmaker and what's going on in this direction. There does, in fact, turn out to be something happening over here. We see a bunch of paint go down in this area right at that moment. And so clearly something is happening over there. And since we're not going to get that much value from jumping anyway, we end up just spawning in normally. And there is, in fact, a player there. Teammate ends up taking them out, but I would have had no knowledge that that was going to happen before the fight actually broke out. It would just be guesswork, because right here, where I've already landed, is where my teammate ends up getting them. And then from there, we're able to take out that player and help stall the push more. In fact, it goes further than that, because now that we are still here and alive, we're able to flank all the way around, get those 2 players, and totally end the game. Hey there, gamers! It's Post-Production Gem, who has realized a grave error that he has made. The video ended up being like 30 minutes long, because there were too many matches that were in here. So the version that I have uploaded to YouTube, which I think will probably perform the best, is this version that you see here. But I'm probably going to do an extended cut that I put onto the Patreon and make available to YouTube members. So if you are interested in that, you can consider supporting me. I do this full time, and this kind of support is something that's helping to keep the whole project going right now. So would appreciate that, but hopefully you've still learned a good amount about what is going on in my head when I'm looking for a super jump, and something hopefully that you can apply for your own game. So sorry about that. Thank you so much for watching, gamers, and we'll see you on the next video.